I am not Black, and I was super excited when I connected with a Black woman here in San Miguel de Allende who was just wonderful and willing to share her story, not only being a Black woman in Mexico, but she's also a historian and is going to share information that you never thought even existed. Let's meet her now.
Hi, my name is Tayler Ava Friar. I'm from Oakland, California, and I'm a writer and an art historian. So actually, I've been living abroad for over 10 years now. I used to do it kind of 3 months at a time, but now I've slowed down. I'm currently in San Miguel de Allende, where I've been living for a year and a half now. I switched between Mexico and Paris as a lifestyle, which is nice. And today I'm going to be talking about a couple of things. My experience as a Black woman living in Mexico, which I think everybody would like to know about as we continue to think about how we want to live more digital lifestyles. And the other thing is, as a historian, my journey in learning more about Afro-Mexico and their footprint here in the country. I'm a global citizen, but I'm also a Black body in this world. So my expectations around coming to Mexico, I tried to keep it pretty open-minded. For one thing, I knew I was coming to a place where the people were brown. This is very helpful because in the past, I've lived in places where perhaps that wasn't the case. Vietnam, for example, Serbia. I'm standing out a lot more in those places than I expected to be standing out in Mexico. So to be honest, in terms of what my expectations were around being received as a Black woman, I was still pretty neutral when I came to Mexico. I was more concerned about safety, to be honest, because I had never been to Mexico. And to me, that's strange because I'm from California and there are neighbors. But when I arrived in San Miguel, I did something that I usually don't do, which is I booked a hotel. I don't really do that, but because of safety, I was like, let me just have something that's really secure, and then I'll walk out and see what's what. I quickly realized that I was in a very safe space in San Miguel. It's beautiful, but importantly, I feel that I can be in my body and have the space to kind of roam free day or night. Of course, like any city, there are a couple places I can think of that I wouldn't go at night, but for the most part, I've never not been able to walk. And for me, as a woman, having the option of as many different modalities of transportation is really important. Walking being number one, and the walking infrastructure is really, really good here. My other experiences with race are interesting. I was actually having a conversation with my friend at dinner this week. Her name's Lena, and she's a Black woman as well, and she's married to a Mexican male, and she's been living here in San Miguel for over 10 years now. And I said to her, you know, I haven't had any issues with race here in San Miguel. And she said, you know, me either. And I said, except with white Americans. And she's like, me too. So actually, in terms of how I've been received by Mexicans, it's been absolutely fabulous. Nothing to complain about. Everybody's been very kind. Everyone has been very encouraging. They want to know about you. They're encouraging of you speaking the language. They're encouraging of you learning their culture. They're encouraging with giving directions, frankly. And I found really refreshing this culture of acknowledgement. Everyone greets everyone here. You say buenos dias, buenas tardes to everyone. And it makes you feel more seen as a Black woman. The issues I've had, and there's only been a couple when it comes to race, has been not far from home. It's only been white American, and it hasn't been too bad. It's been worse in America than it ever has been for me here. So when I first got to San Miguel, I flew into Mexico City, so I didn't get a chance to stay for that long. But since that time, I've gone there quite a lot. And first, I just have to shout out the transportation. It is 4 hours between Mexico City and San Miguel. And the buses here are out of this world. I never rave about a bus, like it's not really a thing. However, these buses are world class. It's like flying first class. It's the most comfortable experience I've ever had. Clean, professional, on time, and the seats go all the way back. So if you're ever doubting whether you should take the bus, I highly recommend that you try it at least once. Now, about Mexico City, I gotta tell you, it's completely different from San Miguel. San Miguel is more of a town. It's beautiful, it's cobblestone-y, it's more quiet. And Mexico City is the opposite. It's buzzing, it's big, some of the buildings are high. It's like a big city, it's like New York City. But I gotta tell you, I love it, and I could see myself living there too. I love walking down the streets because, similar to other big cities, it's separated into different neighborhoods, and each neighborhood seems like a town of its on its own, and it has its own kind of sense of culture and style. It reminds me of my two favorite areas. One is called Roma, and it reminds me of the old stony architecture of Paris, but it's very new age. Inside the shops, it's like the new age shops of Berlin.
I like to think of Roma and Condesa as kind of like the Brooklyn of Mexico City.
It's got this style, it's got this swag, and I can just sit in the outdoor coffee shops all day being a part of the community. It's super, super global. And I have to say again, as a Black woman, I didn't have one bad experience there. Not one. The difference, though, is the safety. Mexico City is known for being a lot more dangerous than San Miguel ever will be. And I would just encourage anyone who wants to visit to approach it the same way you'd approach any other big city that you know of. Would you be in some areas in Manhattan by yourself and not have an expectation that you could get mugged? Probably not. So don't do that there. But you would be fine, and it's definitely worth it to be a part of that buzz. As a world traveler, I've never seen myself in a us and them situation as a Black woman. I've never had an approach of finding the Black communities and just sticking with it, because that would deter me from big opportunities to learn and meet all different kinds of people. Why did I decide to travel if I just wanted to stay in one community? That being said, my Black community in San Miguel is amazing. There is a woman here, her name is Michelle Weddleburn, and she is one of my first friends that I met in San Miguel. My first month in San Miguel, I actually didn't meet that many people because I was on a writing sabbatical and I was writing every day in the library. But I ended up meeting her, and she has an influencer group called Black SMA, which is a collective that's grown leaps and bounds over its first year. She now owns a guest house called Casa, which is also in San Miguel. I believe there are 10 to 12 rooms in it, and it is a hosting area for retreats, for yoga, for all kinds of things. And I find myself there so much because the community is there. I did a really fun event there for Dia de los Muertos, which just passed. And I think it was maybe 15 people, some who lived in San Miguel and are Black, and some who were visiting in San Miguel. And it was a beautiful dinner. She had face painters to make us a Catrina. She had one of the best photographers in San Miguel there, Stefanix, who did a photo shoot for everyone individually. So you had kind of your souvenir. And then we went out into the town. So I'm really grateful for my Black community. Outside of that community, I have found that if I just see someone on the street, you give them a wave. They always wave back. They always want to know your story. However, outside of that, I've made plenty of friends across the color wheel, and I'm grateful for that just as much, honestly. One of the ways that I made some good friends in San Miguel was last year I was doing house sitting. I house sat at 2 properties here in San Miguel, both owned by women in their late 60s, early 70s. And they just were the most charming, wonderful, interesting ladies. And we've become friends. Since that time, I go to dinners with them, we go to concerts. I just finished a 3-day Divine Feminine Rising conference with one of them. The other one has invited me to dinner next week, and I'll be looking after her home soon. San Miguel is a city of artists. And if you are into art in any form, it's where you want to be. It's also a hotspot for those who, I was at a party the other week and there was a guy who had won the Pulitzer Prize. I kid you not. They're all here and most of them are down to earth. So if you're thinking that you want to come here, there's certainly a community that's waiting to greet you.
So I've asked Tayler to talk about something that she recently did, bringing us back to Mexico City. And then before we finish, there's something really exciting that she has coming up, and I'm super excited that she took this time to meet with us because of this exciting thing. We're going to talk about that too before the end of this video.
Like I said, I've been to Mexico City quite a few times, but I'm so excited that I got to go back recently. On November 6th, it was the opening of COP27, the UN Climate Change Conference that happens in Egypt. And this year, I got to take part in it in a really special way. My art production company is called Art Unknown, which focuses on unconventional art found in unconventional spaces to amplify Black voices. And I go all over the world. I've been to almost 50 countries at this point. It was founded in 2018 in South Africa, where I used to live as well. And we basically seek out to express Black voices, or rather, seek out Black voices that can express themselves in ways that we hadn't seen before. So this was a huge opportunity. The exhibition was called Flow of Change, Black Voices for Climate Action. And it was a partnership with the government of Mexico, Epson Printers, and Museo Unido. It was a hybrid installation. Half of it was a portraiture gallery in Polanco Gardens. If you haven't been to Polanco Gardens yet, you really need to go. It's one of the most beautiful areas and affluent areas in Mexico City. And we had a gallery that was a collection of many different local artists that were showing what climate degradation looks like in different corners of Mexico and how it affects the Afro-Mexican population. And the other half was really exciting. After dark at 8:30, there is an area outside of the gallery called Crystal Pools. It just was like glass pools of water. And at 8:30, we projected light onto the surface of it and did a photo montage with an overlay of a commissioned poem by an Afro-Mexican environmentalist. And it was a huge exhibition. There were so many people there. It was lively. And it was an opportunity for me to bring forward this message of amplifying Black voices. This is huge right now in Mexico because a lot of people aren't aware of the history of Africa and its footprint here in the country. 16th and 17th century Veracruz was one of the largest slave ports in the Americas. So we're talking about 200 plus years of forced African migration. And it just so happens that Veracruz was the second largest area with enslaved footprint. Rio de Janeiro was the first. So my question has always been, how can we have that much forced migration and not know more about Afro-Mexicans? The answer is pretty simple. It wasn't until 2020 that the government formally recognized Afro-Mexican as a cultural identity. That means that even if you wanted to before, you'd be exempt from any social safety net, any government funding. So now, with less than 2 years worth of data, Afro-Mexicans are considered the third cultural root of the country. This is a huge moment for the country to revisit histories and affirm Black voices. Here's the exciting thing that Brighton was alluding to earlier. I'm so excited to say that I'll be doing a TED Talk here in San Miguel de Allende on Saturday, November 26th. This is a huge opportunity, and I'll be talking about this topic that we've been covering today. How can we use art to amplify Black voices? And not just in Mexico, but anywhere in the world. This is something everyone can be a part of, and art can be the medium in which we do it. So please get involved, ask questions, and be in touch with me. You can get me at artunknown.org and come to Mexico. See it for yourself. It's beautiful. We're all really happy here, and we hope to see you soon.
I am so glad that I got to introduce you to Tayler. We had a really tough time connecting, and finally we got together. This is my last day in San Miguel de Allende. We got together here in Cafe Murmullo, I think is how it's pronounced, which is a really cool. The walls are covered in paintings, and it's very much like eco art, I guess. Let's get back to Tayler. So if you want to check out her TED Talk, you're going to find that up here. Otherwise, there'll be someone else from San Miguel de Allende down here. Hasta luego.